What's up, everybody? I am Brad. This is Chris. This is Make More Marbles.
Hi, I'm Chris.
What's up, everybody? And we are talking today about Q&A, about AI, artificial intelligence, in case you've been living under a rock somewhere. You haven't heard about it. It's changing everything in the industry. And we're going to talk about resources versus resourcefulness as well. Very, very important stuff. So if you're on the live, hashtag live. If you have a question, put it in the comments below. We will answer it. If you are watching the replay, hit hashtag replay. And as always, if you are needing help with your mastermind, we have a couple things you can do to get started. We have my book at 8minutemastermind.com. You can check that out. You can go to our event, which is in October. We do one twice a year, and that is at mastermindtomillions.live. And then finally, if you are looking for help and you're like, hey, I don't want to figure this out on my own. I want to invest my resources in a trusted mentor, a trusted system, a proven process that helps people get masterminds launched profitably and expediently, you can go to buildamastermind.com/schedule-now. That's buildamastermind.com/schedule-now to book a call on our calendar and have a chat, see if it's a good fit to work together to achieve your goals. More income, more impact, better relationships, better results, less time. Let's go. Okay, let's get right into it. So first thing on the docket, artificial intelligence. So we've been playing around with this a lot over here at the Marbles Clan. JJ, I got to give him a big shout out, has been really awesome at helping us to figure this out. I've sat through no less than 8 or 9 presentations about AI and different ways people are utilizing it. And I've been playing with it on my own, and I could just kind of share my screen and talk about some of the things that we've been working on, which I think are really interesting and potentially helpful. One trick I figured out recently was that you can basically use it to help grab your PDF. Let's say you have a PDF of a book or some sort of content you want to use. That's been very effective, is just basically putting in this book, letting it read the book, and then producing ads and copy and various things. So that's been really helpful to just help synthesize a lot of information very quickly. It's not perfect. Sometimes you have to re-upload it. Sometimes you have to take the actual text and put it in. Sometimes the PDF to text, the OCR, optical character recognition, doesn't work as well. So that can be a challenge. But there's a lot you can do here, and picking out stories and different tools and different ways to do it. A few of the prompts I've been playing with is, grab all the stories from this chapter and then bullet point them for me in a hero's journey format. So if I'm telling that story, I have kind of a cheat sheet to be able to tell that story. Another thing I've been doing is coding with this. So if you head on over to Chatbot UI, for example, and that's not it. Let's see. Here we go. So let's say I wanted to do something coding wise, and I'm not a coder. I don't pretend to be a coder. I haven't really coded a lot since I was like a young kid, right? And now I'm starting to get back into it because it's actually easier than it's always been, which is really interesting. Because a computer, just like it can translate English to Spanish or German or Japanese or whatever in real time, doesn't really make a difference to the computer. It understands all of it, and contextually, it understands how to convert code into English and English back to code. And all I have to do is ask it a plain English question. How do I code X, Y, and Z? Or what do you do if you get this error message or whatever? And it can basically walk you through how to code whatever it is you're working to code. So that's pretty cool.
Here's a question, Brad, real quick. I'm just going to interrupt you there for a second. When it comes to coding, why is this important for those that want to build masterminds?
I don't know that it is or not, but I want you to understand what's possible. So if I want to create a little plugin to automate some of what I do every day, I can do that now. I don't have to wait around or mess around or look around for whatever it is that I want to create. Let's say I just want to have a little plugin that reminds me to reach out to people, or reaches out to them for me, or takes comments off of Facebook posts and puts them into a spreadsheet, or any number of different use cases that I could think of where it's just little manual tasks that as you're building your mastermind, they kind of start to pile up, and it's on top of you to continue to do that. So what if I could just create a little piece of software that allows you to do that? So this is just additional leverage and tools that you have, whether you're coding in Python, C++, JavaScript, whatever it is that will allow you to do that. And you don't have to necessarily be a coder to do this anymore. Additionally, since code is kind of everything we do, if you want to know how something works, you can just basically feed the code into the machine and say, hey, break this down for me like I'm 5 years old. What does this piece do? What does that piece do? And begin to learn different pieces of it. So I'm not saying this is a substitution for like a fully thought out software stack that 100 people worked on and, a fully funded startup built or a very successful, profitable company. But these are the types of things that are becoming more accessible to the average person that I want you to know about so that you can begin to play around with it. So if you want to get involved with AI, you can go to openai.com, get set up for that. $20 a month will get you their top tier thing that you can use the API key and go into Chatbot UI or any of the other various tools that allow you to do that and just play around with it. Really, that's what that's the call to action here is do some things, mess around, have it write some posts for you, have it give you some ideas, have it help you name things. You can basically ask it to do anything. The only thing I would ask is be kind to the machine because it's going to pay attention. It's going to remember, it has a longer memory. And I don't want you to end up on the wrong side when this thing does have a robot attached to it or a drone or any other capability.
Name the Terminator.
We all laugh now, but fucking watch those Terminator movies again.
Hey, you watched that Terminator movie and it all started here. It all started here.
That's right. So, I might be crazy, but I'm going to be nice to the computer. It pays nothing to be nice. It's a very human thing. And hopefully it remembers. So like stuff that was completely in another language to me that I had no idea how to interact with is now completely possible, which is pretty fun. So that was like 4 hours of me messing around. And then I went to JJ and, said, hey, how do I do this? And he figured it out in 20 minutes. So there's still a benefit in the who and not the how, but AI will continue to get better and there's no reason to wait to test the limits of what's possible. If you've been doing things consistently, this is what I tell everybody is like, when you have a certain set of tasks on your plate that you're doing consistently and you haven't audited your time in a while, the best thing to do is to write down all the things you're doing consistently. How did those things make you feel? Did they give you energy or take it away? And then based on that, can I eliminate this stuff? Can I automate some of the stuff with some of the tools that are now available to us? Can I delegate what I can't eliminate or automate because you don't want to multiply inefficiency or give somebody else an inefficient process? And then finally liberate yourself in that process to free you up for the higher value tasks, the tasks that really do light you up and the things that really fulfill you and ultimately make you the most money, right? I think that's what we should be spending our time on. And tools like this give you the ability to do that. So, you ask the simple question, the surface level question of why is this important for building masterminds? This is important no matter what you're building, is what are the tasks that take up a lot of your time? How do you audit those? How do you decide which ones you want to get off your plate? And then go through that matrix, that eliminate, automate, delegate, liberate matrix, that deal matrix that Tim Ferriss came up with and I use all the time. How do you get those things off your plate consistently so that you get the outcome without having to do the work? Simple as that.
I think to add into that as well is that it helps you to do the things and figure out the things that you actually enjoy doing. I used to think that I didn't like creating content and creating posts and things like that. Now with AI, I actually love it because it gets me to think differently. It gets me to process things differently. The task of actually writing out the content and making it sound good, which I'm not very great at, AI helps me with that. And so it gets rid of that pain point. And I go, actually, wait a second. Creating content is actually quite fun because I get to create and think about new topics and then the AI helps me actually make it sound actually halfway decent.
So what I love doing specifically is like, I'll be reading a book and I really like this chapter. I'm like, I kind of believe this already. And like, I've just never articulated it before. How could I literally just take this chapter, have it digest that, add in a few of my own little sprinkles to it, spit something out, make a few tweaks and then post that versus starting from scratch, spending half an hour writing, having to edit and re-edit, which I actually enjoy and love. It's just time consuming. Now I have the AI where it's like, okay, I can drop in a flow here faster because I'm not staring at a blank page. I have something to start with and then I can edit, which puts me in a flow, which I learned from Stephen Kotler. That's actually a little hack. If you have a blank page, just edit something from the day before and you'll get back in a flow and then it'll be easier to write new stuff. I can do that instead. And now I'm, 15 seconds away from something that I can start to do versus, 15 to 30 minutes away. And then you can batch content more easily. So if you just come up with a bunch of ideas throughout the month that, I know I'm going to crank this out on AI for 2 hours on one day that month. Now you can batch that task, touch it once, schedule all that content and come back next month and do the same thing. So what used to take you consistent hour a day kind of work for a whole month now could be knocked out in 2 hours once a month.
I went through and batch content the end of last week, 3 posts a day, all the way till the middle of July. And I did it in half a day, whereas it would have taken me a whole week.
There you go. So these are just some tiny little examples. If you're somebody who's a software developer, you want to learn that skill, that's awesome. If you're somebody who just creates a lot of content, needs leverage, that's awesome. I'm paying really smart people a lot of money to build some of this stuff for me, because it's going to ultimately make our operation more efficient, leaner. But here's the thing is like, whoever's coming next didn't do all the brain damage stuff I did for the last 10 years. So it gives me a distinct advantage having had that experience and knowing what quality is and knowing what works. But it gives them an advantage not having to do it the way I used to do it. They don't have any preconceived notions of how it was done. They don't know that they had to go and do the research and build the thing. They could just hit a button and go. So it's leveled the playing field in that regard. So if you've been in this industry for a while, like me, you have to stay frosty. You have to stay on your toes and realize that this is now the tool that everybody has access to. If you're not using it, you're going to quickly be left behind. And we'll see that happening more and more and more. And if you have team members that aren't using it, you're also being left behind, because now they are less efficient as a result. So it's not just about you getting it. It's about you getting it, teaching your team about it, sending them trainings and whatnot, and not just stopping at what is told, somebody telling you this is what it can do, getting in there, rolling up your sleeves and playing around with yourself. So I think that's all I have to say about AI. We're doing an awesome training on the 29th for our paid members, and that's going to be great. We're going to go into all the prompts and everything we're doing and just like basically teach on it for a whole hour and change. But that's a good place to start, just as kind of a teaser, and definitely get it set up and play around with it. What do you think, Chris?
I reckon, yeah, AI is definitely. I remember when I first heard about ChatGPT, I was a bit hesitant. I was like, and then I started using it. I was like, oh my god, what used to take me a week can take me like an hour. Okay, cool. I'm on board. I'll get on this thing and let it know all my information. Because at the end of the day, it's just like it's just like anything. If you don't get on board, sadly, the train is moving. And you got to move whether you like it or not. It's going to move whether you like it or not, and you're not going to stop a locomotive unless you have a really big bomb. But that's a different story for another day. But yeah, especially as entrepreneurs, we've got to get on board. Am I scared about some of this side of stuff because of watching Terminator? Yes, but at the same time, there ain't much that I can do about
that
it.
That movie, above all movies, is like embedded in my DNA.
Same.
Like
I just watching I watched the Arnold documentary the other day, and it popped everything back in my head. I was like, oh my god, yes, AI did this. But anyways, at the end of the day, I don't have control over what actually comes out from it, but it's already rolling, and so either get on board or go be a doomsdayer and dig a big hole and don't talk to anybody. You got one or two options.
Yeah, and that's the other side of it. It's like a lot of my friends are concerned, and myself as well, maybe less so, but still I get where they're coming from, is like we're entering a world where it's going to get harder and harder to make a living in the traditional sense. Mm-hmm. Like something's going to have to shift where, either things get so cheap to access that it's like you don't have to make a whole lot of money, and what little you can scrape together is probably going to be enough. Or you're going to have to make so much money so quickly now that you can have it last the rest of your life, because eventually you're going to get outcompeted and there's going to be so much consolidation. I like to think it's somewhere in the middle.
I hope so as well. I mean, I do have a fear around that as well. The rich will get richer and the poor will get poorer, because, you'll have to pay for this kind of stuff. You'll have to, or you'll have to get really smart really fast. But at the same time, I feel like humans over the years have evolved.
Yeah.
And we always evolve and we always figure it out. And, so far. Or we go to another planet like Elon Musk is trying to get us to do, and we see what happens there.
Well, yeah, and it's not just these artificial intelligence in a box neural networks, which are still in the scheme of what's possible. They're pretty dumb and pretty, specific and use case dependent. But like, what about when robots are running around with artificial intelligence on board? What about when human beings are neurally upgraded, with like Neuralink and things like that? And we can interface with technology and artificial intelligence, and we don't have any bandwidth constraints. We don't have to speak or talk or type or any of that. It's just happening because of our thoughts.
Or we can learn something in a matter of milliseconds instead of taking days, years, months. You could become a lawyer.
Upload the helicopter program. Yeah.
Matrix.
I don't think that's too crazy of an outcome, because really, what is a skill? A skill is a bunch of neurons you wired and fired enough together to get an outcome to where it's unconscious. And who's to say that you can't do that artificially in the future without all the having to fly a helicopter?
I mean, the other thing is that we won't be driving or flying helicopters, because it'll all be done by AI.
That's right. So whichever way the future goes, I've always been, I don't know if I'm an early adopter, but I'm definitely like early on the scale. I don't know if I'm first adopter, but I'm definitely early on the scale. Definitely not a late adopter. I feel like late adopters are going to get screwed because by the time they get around to it, it's going to be too hard, too long. And it's difficult to innovate in business. It's difficult to come up with something new, but you have to try, right? You have to get after it in your own way and do your best to serve with the skills that you have and continue to improve your skills. I believe that anybody who just tries right now can get some traction and build it into something. And then some of the folks that do it are going to become very, very wealthy. So my own personal shift recently, and this came on the motorcycle trip actually, was I'm working hard to build a business. I'm working hard to make cash flow and to make that happen and serve people. What I'm not working hard to, or as hard to do, I shouldn't give myself no credit, is to build assets and to acquire assets. So I want to now spend my working time more on acquiring assets and building engines of leverage to do that, which pay me maybe forever versus, ones that I'm building and money in, money out. And, maybe there is no payday at the end of the day. Maybe there is no bigger thing. And there's really only a few assets that will survive the test of time. In my opinion, it's like, getting exposure to markets, right? Where the S&P 500 is always the S&P 500, whether things, are promoted or dropped out of it. I believe crypto is probably here to stay and it's still pretty nascent. Real estate is a really solid asset. They're not making any more lands. There's a lot of beneficial laws, tax and otherwise, that, make real estate ownership attractive. And I'm really settling into real estate as an option. And I want to have enough possibilities for the ways to do real estate in order to be really successful at it and build a funnel where I don't believe a lot of people have done that successfully. Like I've seen a few of the bigger real estate agencies do it. I've seen like 72 Sold and a few of these do it. They're not doing it in the way I envision it with my background. So I feel like that's a way I can cross-pollinate what I've been learning for the last 10 years of how to build funnels that are profitable into a more sustainable approach where it's not we get paid one time to teach people how to build masterminds. We get paid maybe for the next 30 years if we get the right cash flow deal or more, right? And we're getting upside and appreciating our wealth along the way. So that's been the biggest shift for me, which I kind of got intellectually for a long time. I had the lesson, but viscerally, I realized like I wasn't doing anything about it or not doing as much as I possibly could. And I was always putting it off for the right time. And I'm like, no, the time is now. If it ever was the time, you've got a timeline where this is going to be no longer an opportunity. And that might be 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, whatever it is. But in that time, I can accumulate $1,000 portfolio and be in a really good position wealth-wise. So that's going to be where my focus goes. And I'm just grateful to you to step up to be like, hey, I'm going to help you on the build a mastermind and the make more marble side so that I can focus on what's the next thing that hopefully I can bring you along, right? Once I've done the brain damage and, the settlers, are starting to get some gold and not arrows.
It's funny, that motorcycle trip, a lot more came out of it than I thought was going to. I realized that,
as is always the case with masterminds, but go ahead.
Exactly.
There's a magical element that I can't quite quantify. I wish I could.
Exactly. But no, like I thought about that same thing. I was like, I need to start partnering with more people and stop trying to do it on my own. Like not when it comes to like courses and stuff. I'm always open to doing courses, but actually properly partnering with people and not trying to hold all the gold to myself, but actually going, okay, cool. How do we make an empire, not just a city?
That's it. And I can't help people. Like I've got a lot of shit figured out at this age for how I've done in my life at 37. I've done a lot of cool shit and I figured a lot of shit out. That's just giving myself credit where credit's due. I've worked really hard and that's fine. But I can only take people where I've been before. So if I'm preaching, you should build your wealth, and I'm not doing as best as I can to build my wealth, or I'm not being honest with myself when I'm not as good at one thing as I am at another, and I'm focusing on things I'm not good at and trying to get better at those and beat my head against the wall instead of going over here where I could potentially 10 or 100x. It's like, I got to be honest with myself. I got to sit myself down, look at myself in the mirror and be like, hey, fucko, it's the same amount of brain damage either way, but is the outcome worth it? That's it. And I think we all have to have that conversation with ourselves, maybe not in such derogatory terms as hey, fucko, but
hey, sometimes we do.
what works for me may not work for you, but the general idea is we have to be real with ourselves. We have to be truthful with ourselves. We have to be honest with ourselves. We can't lie to ourselves. If we're not getting the outcomes that we want in all ways, shapes, and forms, with our health, our wealth, our relationships, we have to come back to why is that the case? And what could we do differently that would get there faster and actually get the outcome, and then go do that. Right. So that's where I'm at.
Yep. Would totally agree. I think that kind of leads us and transfers us into that resources versus resourcefulness.
Right. So how am I going to accumulate 1,000 doors? I don't have $100 million sitting around. Maybe I could raise that kind of money. I'm not really interested in doing that. I've done that a bunch of times. I have a fund. I have all that shit. Right. The way I want to do it is through a couple different ways. It's through partnering with other people who, there's really like 3 ways to do deals. And I'm learning this from a guy named Pace Morby, who's here locally. And I'm probably going to try to connect with this guy soon. I just read his book. It's great. It's called Wealth Without Cash. And it's all about subject to real estate finance, seller financing, like stuff I've heard of before, but never really gone deep down the rabbit hole. And I have friends, Jen and Stacy, who do like multifamily. I do virtual. I like that aspect of it. I have people who do notes, and I've explored that pretty deeply. I have people that do tax liens and tax deeds. I've explored that to some extent. Jasmine's really excited about that. But like, it's never quite clicked in where I'm like, oh, this is the piece that would make a lot of sense. Like, hitting my network every time I need money just doesn't feel as good to me as like, what's a sustainable business model? Well, a sustainable business model is something that's good for the client or the seller or the buyer, whoever, and it's good for me, right? It's sustainable for both of us. So when you look at a real estate transaction, a lot of people say, well, I need the cash to at least come up with the down payment, but quickly that taps out, right? You can only get 13 mortgages in your own name. And then you're going to have to raise all the cash. And again, you're right back to the fund model, which is a perfectly valid model if that's what you want to manage. I would prefer not to manage all those relationships with investors. Instead, I prefer to just accumulate real estate and more importantly, cash flow from real estate. I'm not necessarily needing it to appreciate as quickly. So that allows me to do things that the typical fund or manager or investor can't actually do. For example, I can work out terms with the seller. I say, hey, you got some equity in this property? What do you need the money for? How much money do you need when? Let's build terms so that you can get more money, pay less fees, and end up with more money for your property. And you just carry the note for me. And if I default and stop paying, which I won't, but you have a performance title which allows you to reclaim the property. And it would be in better shape than when I took it over, because I've put money into it and I've built it into a cash cow, right? So I'm not going to give that up, and they're not going to have to worry about me not performing because it's in my best interest to perform. And, that's a typical subject to or seller finance agreement. And I'm like, okay, so that starts to be interesting. And then you look at more content about that. And now this new possibility becomes a thing. And now what nobody's doing is running funnels to these deals like I will. Everybody's knocking doors and cold calling and emailing and doing the shit that I know there's a better way to do that. I know there's a way to have people show up ready to buy from me or ready to sell to me. So I'm just going to focus on that side because I've already figured that out somewhat. I know how to get there. I know what the steps are. And I'm going to go build that engine because that's what allows you to scale to 1,000 doors without making that your full-time job necessarily. So that's where my head's at.
I like it. So if somebody's struggling with that mindset of, finding resources, they're in that mindset, we hear it a lot, especially in sales and that, I don't have the money. Yeah. Money's the big one. I don't have the money. Sure. And a lot of times if
that's your mindset, you'll always not have money. That'll be a recurring theme in your life. At no point in that conversation did I say, I can't find money. I can go raise money. Yeah. I can put my own money into it. I got some of that, right? I can go do deals, or I can get creative about how I do deals. And if you can just find deals that are, ready to go, I can wholesale those deals. I can fix and flip those deals. I can sell or finance or subject to those deals. I can do all kinds of different ways of making the same transaction valuable and profitable for all parties concerned. And when you make win-win deals, that's what works, right? And I've got real estate experience. I've been doing this in my life for a while, not as a job, but I've always been interested in it. I've done it as an agent. I had a team of agents in New York City that I worked with, and I feel like there's a section of this which is possible. And, we had this crypto deal working on the back ends. I'm still doing my SaaS startup. The crypto deal's on pause because they spent a bunch of money and they're like, okay, we're going to back off and not spend any money. And that's not really under my control. So it's like, there's always resources. There's always people willing to spend money. There's always stuff that you can do. It's just not buying into the idea of I can't do it because I don't have the money. Well, nobody has any money. It's all the money. It's all made up at the end of the day. We don't get to keep it or take it with us. It's a made up concept. And when you get out of that mindset of it's got to be yours and you got to have control over it and all this. Just like you got to give up that idea of I got to be able to do all the things and not partner with anybody.
Yeah.
Like I spent 10 years of my life building an engine, so you don't have to do that. You just show up and close deals.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you can build what I built, but you got to do what I did. Yep. And maybe you'll do it better or worse, and maybe it'll take you faster or shorter and or longer, and maybe it'll be harder or easier. I don't know. Like I'm not going to bet against you, but I already built the damn thing. Let's make a deal.
Yep. And it works. That's
it, man. In fact, over the weekend, we sold a bunch of books, and we're starting to have conversations with some of those people. And there's a perfect time and place, and some of them aren't ready yet. And that's all good. But like, I realized like, hey, we just sold a dozen books over the weekend. It's pretty good, right? I'm like, that's good. And I started looking back, and I realized, wait, none of the upsells that I would normally see were coming through. So it made me like my spidey sense was tingling. Like, okay, we sold all these single books and no upsells. Normally we get a few upsells at the very least, or 1 or 5 or whatever, right? Something. And so I went through the funnel myself and I realized, oh, ClickFunnels is broken again. So we're leaving all that revenue on the table. So that became our project for the day to go fix. It's just like there's always something, right?
Yeah,
so
there is.
That led me to like, I always take this as like, okay, what am I missing I need to do? Because when everything's hunky-dory, you don't pay attention. It just is doing its thing. You're selling books, you're selling upsells, people are moving through your funnel. When it breaks, now it's an opportunity to improve. Well, I don't want to just beat up JJ with 1 million tasks as my business manager, even though he's very capable. He's one guy with 5 kids and a bunch of shit going on. I would prefer to now get more people under him so that he can begin to delegate, or I could begin to take projects off his plate and give them to somebody new and test that person out. And no, I don't want a whole agency, and don't start hitting me up, please. But if I get to find one more competent funnel builder, I don't even need you to know strategy. I don't need you to write copy. I just need you to be able to put the things in the places quicker than what we can do with the current capacity and bandwidth that we have on Go High Level or on ClickFunnels or both or wherever, right? We're just going to build this shit faster because I got a lot of ideas and I want to implement them faster. Simple as that. So that's where we're at.
That's
man.
The one.
That's it. That's
I love it.
So I'll keep everybody posted as far as that. This is kind of my weekly brain dump to give you guys ideas, but the resource versus resourceful, you're just not playing a big enough game. You're not considering all the angles. A, because you're ignorant. That's fine. I was ignorant. I'm still ignorant to a lot of things. We don't know what we don't know. B, because you're greedy, and that's okay. But you gotta recognize that that's not the best strategy, and especially in the abundant age in which we live. Being greedy and keeping all the marbles to yourself is not the ethos that we aspire to. Right? It's like, how can we help others? Like even with the Pace Morby guy, I may meet him and we may not get along, whatever. But I'm gonna reach out. I'm gonna extend the olive branch. And hey, man, I could probably help you sell more books. I've got a book funnel that did $1.8 million on the back end. I can probably help you with that. If you don't have a mastermind already or it sucks, I can help you with that. If you're needing help with this funnel, maybe this is a thing you've not explored. I know according to his YouTube videos, I did some research. He's doing like, cold calling, door knocking, mailers, and some PPC ads. And I'm like, dude, Facebook ads, let's go. Let's get that going.
Yeah.
So I could add value in all those ways. And if he's open to that, let's make a partnership. If he's not, cool. Next, I'll learn what I can from this guy and hopefully, circle around the next time around. But he seems like a collaborative guy and he seems like he wants to help. And, I think we both win. So I've got things figured out. He's got things figured out. And together we can do something really special.
So I think on that resources and resourcefulness as well as what a lot of people, are doing, and you've done it before as well, financial advising type side of things. A lot of people spend their money in the wrong places too.
That's right, man. Yeah.
They spend their money. Like I remember going through, and I still do it with clients these days and with people that are wanting to, join the program and don't have the money or, say they don't have the money on that. I'm like, okay, cool. Let's go through your finances. And what you recognize really quickly is you spend a lot of money on bullshit.
Yeah. Most of your money on bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm guilty of this as anybody.
We all are.
I made a very spur of the moment $14,000 purchase recently because my cold plunge broke. And I'm like, I can't live without my cold plunge anymore. So I bought like the top of the line, best cold plunge, 3-year warranty, $14,000.
But dude, you use that thing every single day.
But I use it every single day, sometimes twice a day. And I love it. It's awesome. And I get so much value out of it. But most people would be like, that's crazy. Well, I think it's crazy not to spend money on things that really matter to you and actually help. Because money, I can make more money. I can't get back the way I feel every single day. When I wake up feeling like shit and I get in that cold plunge and come out and I feel great. I get to do that.
You also can't get back time.
Yeah.
The biggest thing that you're buying when you're buying courses and when you're investing with people is time.
That's right. That's right. Because even if I get one, like I had a joke, like I would buy and consume, $2,000 courses like candy. I would just be throwing them back or buying them. And it wasn't even that I would watch all of them. I would just watch enough to get a sense of what was known already, what new and interesting idea. And if I could get one good idea out of it and implement it, worth the money. I wasn't needing it to be like, and I have gone through courses that have absorbed every single molecule of what they had to teach. And that's fun. That's fine too. It's just, I would rather get the one nugget that makes it worth it, where I can feel in my soul like I got what I needed, and then move on to the next thing and implement that and implement that and implement that. That's why I keep joining the same mastermind. I'm going deeper with the same mastermind because I feel like that's the one that most nearly fits where I'm at and where I'm looking to go, and has the people in it that I want to learn from and grow into. It feels like home. So I'm going to stay there until it doesn't. This is my third year there. And there's other ones that want me in for free or want to comp my ticket, and I'll go and check it out. But if it's not the right fit, I don't care if they're paying me or not. I'll pay to be in the right room. I don't care if you're paying me. I'm not going to spend time with the wrong people in the wrong room.
We all have the same amount of time, and it's all limited.
That's it. So, Chris, you got a hard stop. I got more stuff to block and tackle today. I'm making sure my team is getting these bits and pieces solved and putting out fires. So if you've heard this message today, if you've gotten some value, leave a hashtag replay, leave a hashtag live. Let us know what you got out of this. Let us know how you're going to be more resourceful. Let us know if you need help building your business, right? Let us know if we can help you with your mastermind group or any leverage group program. I don't care if you call it a mastermind. But if you want to make relationships happen, if you want results, if you want to have more money and more impact and less time with less overhead, less inventory, less brain damage, we'll teach you the model. We'll teach you exactly how to work. And Chris can tell you, and a bunch of other people have been through the program. It's comprehensive. We give you all the bits and bobs, all the mindset, all the strategy, all the scripts, everything you're going to need to make it happen. And we'll keep you on track and accountable for as long as it takes to get where you need to go.
I say this all the time. After I did your initial beta program of Build a Mastermind, I went and did like 3 other courses, and I'm like, why did I bother?
You can still write me checks. Anytime you want to just, anytime you just decide, I'm going to go spend some money on another course, just give it to me. I'll put it to good work.
Just give it to you. Give it to you and tell you what I'm looking for.
And I'll go curate it for you. Anyway, but seriously, guys, you want to apply, you want to be part of the BAM fam, go to buildamastermind.com/schedule-now. That's buildamastermind.com/schedule-now. We're on tour 24/7, anywhere you want, any device. Let's go. Come see us live. We love you. All right, guys. Have a beautiful rest of your day. I'll talk to you all soon.